So we've talked about diversity and the programs and the changes that the Leadership Center's engaged in since you've taken over. How do you develop consensus from the board behind that? How does that socialize at the board level?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I find that conversations that maybe big changes or pivots in direction really require an executive director to probably have those in one-off or two-off conversations with board members ahead of time to understand where people are. Like I said before, I have been thrilled because this board was hungry for a new direction. They've embraced this direction. I think they see the challenges in their own work and that we're moving to a place where we could be helpful in that regard. So I feel like this was an easy one for our board to get to. But generally, though, I think when trying to get a board to do, the governance structure to move in a direction that is new and different, you have to do a lot of pre-plowing work because boards are, interestingly to me, inherently risk adverse. I have done some work in the past in the museum world with boards taking them in a new direction in an industry that had never happened before. And I remember the Herculean lift of the 1-2 conversations, the answering concerns, and you can kind of understand it from a governance perspective that people who serve on a board, this is supposed to be your gratifying thing. You really don't want to be on a board that's going to have something negative happen, have a blow up happen. You're concerned from your fiduciary responsibility as a board. So I think it's incumbent upon the executive to really make sure all those questions are answered. And sometimes that has to happen outside of the full board conversation so that when the board all does come together, they have a level set on the understanding of the situation that's on the table and able to make the best possible decision.
Well, to some extent, you got people coming and they're giving their time. The easiest thing to do is just do the same thing that you've done over and over again. That's the no brain power type of decision-making process. But in fact, that can be the most risky thing of all, right?
Thank you for knowing that. Yeah, no action is no decision is a decision. And sometimes that's a little bit hard for people to kind of come to, particularly when the stakes are high. A lot of nonprofits are high visibility in their communities, right? So if you're the one, it's your time to be on this board. You don't want, to feel like you've made a decision that led to any kind of problem with the organization. So I think there's this sort of structure and assumptions that cause boards to just be naturally risk adverse. So the job is to take boards through a process where those assumptions can be challenged and new ideas can come forth. But it has to be intentional work.
And I think it's Seth Godin that said that taking no risks and having no change at all is in fact taking the biggest risk of all, because you're going to have change and you're going to face risk, and it's ultimately absorbing risk and being able to make intelligent decisions about it that allows you to move forward and progress positively with an organization.
I think that's right. And people's, kind of their action logic, the way they think about the world, it tends to make them a lot of times not embrace change. I mean, that's what change management and organizational development is all about, right? Because it's how do you get people comfortable with change and able to adapt to and accept change. And the people that are pushing change are really a minority. When you test for that, the folks who, embrace change and run to it are not a huge section of the population. The majority of people really, you gotta kind of make sure everybody's comfortable with that change, and that's the work of it. So it's the same if you're in one organization or you're working with 20 leaders from across the spectrum.
I can say from personal experience, it can get a little lonely if you're the change agent.
Right.
And if you're able to embrace that, that tends to be something that most folks are more adverse to as opposed to embracing.